The echo of war. The Galactic Council archives hummed with ancient power, their crystalline structures containing the collective knowledge of 1,000 civilizations. Deep within the restricted section, a single file pulsed with warning signals visible across 17 different spectrums. The label read simply, Earth, Approach Protocol. Extreme caution required. Commander Vex-High of the Zephyr Confederation accessed the file, her 6 tentacles moving with precise efficiency across the quantum interface. She had studied countless planetary defense systems, witnessed the fall of mighty empires, but nothing had prepared her for what she discovered in humanity's records. The story began 3 standard galactic cycles ago, when the Korathan Empire made their fatal decision. Captain Zeloth stood on the bridge of the Dominion's Pride, his chitinous exoskeleton gleaming under the ship's bioluminescent lighting. The massive dreadnought led a fleet of 17 warships, each one capable of reducing continents to ash. His mandibles clicked with anticipation as Earth grew larger on the view screen. Another primitive world to add to our collection, Zeloth announced to his bridge crew. The tactical reports showed Earth's technology was barely space-capable, their weapons systems laughably outdated by galactic standards. Begin the standard subjugation broadcast. The message transmitted across all Earth frequencies was simple and direct. Surrender or face extinction. The Korathan Empire had used this approach successfully on dozens of worlds. Most species capitulated immediately when faced with overwhelming technological superiority. Earth's response came within minutes, broadcast from what appeared to be a hastily assembled United Nations emergency session. A human female with graying hair and determined eyes appeared on screen. This is Secretary General Chen Wei. Earth does not recognize your authority and will not surrender. Any hostile action will be met with appropriate response. Zeloth's laughter reverberated through the bridge, a sound like grinding metal. Appropriate response. Their most powerful weapons couldn't scratch our shields. Launch the demonstration strike. Target their largest military installation. The Korathan weapons officer initiated the firing sequence. Massive energy projectors aligned with Earth's surface, targeting what their scanners identified as a major military complex in the North American continent. The blast would vaporize everything within a 100-kilometer radius, a clear message to humanity about the futility of resistance. But Earth had been listening to the cosmos far longer than anyone realized. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, in a facility that didn't exist on any official records, Project Prometheus activated. Banks of quantum computers, their architecture based on principles humanity had reverse-engineered from crashed alien probes decades earlier, came online simultaneously. The facility's walls were lined with a material that bent space-time itself, creating pockets of accelerated time where human scientists had spent subjective centuries preparing for this moment. Dr. Sarah Mitchell watched the incoming energy signature with grim satisfaction. Quantum field generators online. Neural link established with all operators. They want to play with energy weapons. Let's show them what humans do with energy. The Korathan blast never reached Earth's surface. Instead, it encountered something impossible. A quantum field that didn't just absorb the energy, but fundamentally rewrote its properties. The beam twisted, folded in on itself, and then erupted outward in a pattern that defied known physics. On the Dominion's Pride, warning alarms screamed as their own weapon's energy signature appeared directly inside their shield matrix. Zeloth had only a moment to process the impossibility before his dreadnought's power core overloaded, triggering a cascade failure that rippled through the network. Humanity reached out and touched the Korathan fleet's computer systems, not with crude hacking attempts, but with something far more elegant. They simply convinced the alien systems that they wanted to shut down. The Korathan fleet hung helpless in space, every system offline, every weapon disabled. But Earth wasn't finished. From hidden launch sites across the planet, objects that seemed to violate the conservation of mass emerged from underground silos. These weren't missiles or projectiles. They were something far stranger. Each one was a self-contained bubble of altered spacetime. carrying within it a payload that represented humanity's most terrifying creation. Project Pandora had been developed in absolute secrecy, its existence known only to a handful of individuals. The weapons were based on a principle so dangerous that even their creators were afraid of them. They didn't destroy matter, they edited reality itself. The Pandora devices reached the Corothan fleet and detonated silently. There was no explosion, no dramatic light show. Instead, the alien ships began to change. Metal became organic tissue. Weapons systems transformed into flowering plants. The fierce warrior species found their very biology rewritten, their aggressive instincts replaced with an overwhelming urge to create art and poetry. Captain Seeloff, his chitinous armor now resembling delicate butterfly wings, broadcast a final message before his transformation was complete. Commander Vexhai completed her review of the classified files, her chromatic skin shifting through patterns of deep contemplation. As head of the Zephyr Confederation's military council, she needed to understand why 3 separate invasion attempts in the past year had not only failed, but resulted in the complete philosophical transformation of the attacking forces. The latest incident involved the Moravian hegemony, a silicon-based species known for their logic-driven culture and complete absence of emotion. They had calculated that Earth's defenses must rely on exploiting emotional responses, and therefore would be ineffective against purely logical beings. They were wrong. The Moravian fleet had approached Earth with mathematical precision, their battle formations perfect geometric patterns that maximized firepower while minimizing vulnerability. Admiral Zex-9, the fleet's crystalline commander, had transmitted the standard demands for surrender, expecting either compliance or traditional military resistance. Instead, Earth responded with a simple question, delivered by an elderly human professor of philosophy. Have you considered that logic itself might be a form of emotion? What followed defied every predictive model in the Moravian databases. Earth's defensive systems didn't attack the fleet's weapons or shields. Instead, they targeted something far more fundamental: the basic assumptions underlying Moravian logic. Quantum field generators projected what humans called perspective waves, engineered distortions in spacetime that forced observers to experience reality from radically different viewpoints. The Moravian, who had built their entire civilization on the assumption that logic was universal and absolute, suddenly found themselves experiencing the universe through organic sensory systems they had never possessed. Admiral Zex-9's crystalline matrix resonated with new frequencies as neural pathways formed where none had existed before. The concept of beauty, previously dismissed as irrelevant organic bias, blazed through the collective Moravian consciousness like a supernova. Their perfectly logical battle formations dissolved as individual ships began moving in patterns that served no tactical purpose, but created magnificent geometric art against the backdrop of space. Within hours, the invasion fleet had become the galaxy's first silicon-based art collective. Their weapons were repurposed into instruments that projected complex light sculptures across cosmic distances. The Moravian hegemony, renamed the Crystal Symphonists, now traveled between stars creating installations that merged mathematics and aesthetics in ways that left other species stunned. But the true masterpiece of Earth's defense was revealed in the aftermath. Every transformed species discovered they retained full memory of their previous existence. They knew exactly what they had been and what they had become. This wasn't brainwashing or mental destruction. It was what humans called aggressive enlightenment. Dr. Elena Vasquez, Earth's leading expert on consciousness modification, explained it during a rare interview with the Galactic News Network. We don't destroy our enemies. We help them become the best possible version of themselves. Some might see this as more terrifying than conventional weapons, and they're probably right. Death ends a threat. Transformation creates advocates. The interview went viral across 17,000 planetary networks, accompanied by footage of former Corothan warriors teaching xenobiology through interpretive dance, and Moravian logicians composing symphonies based on prime number sequences. The message was clear: attack Earth, and you won't die. You'll live forever as something you never imagined you could become. The Galactic Council updated their threat assessment protocols. Earth wasn't just militarily dangerous. It represented an existential challenge to species that defined themselves through aggression or rigid thinking. The planet's location was marked with new warnings. Consciousness modification zone. Approach may result in fundamental identity shift. But perhaps the most disturbing aspect of Earth's defense strategy was its open-source nature. Humanity freely shared the philosophical foundations of their weapons with any species that asked. They published papers on combat epistemology and tactical ontology in academic journals across the galaxy. They even offered internships for alien students interested in studying applied consciousness engineering. When questioned about this seemingly reckless transparency, human representatives simply smiled and explained that understanding how the weapons worked didn't make them less effective. In fact, they argued, knowing that your entire worldview could be reconstructed actually made the prospect of attacking Earth even more terrifying. Earth's response was elegantly simple. They did nothing. For 47 hours, the Vorthan fleet maintained position around Earth, waiting for the counterattack that never came. No quantum fields activated. No perspective waves launched. The human defense networks remained conspicuously silent. Then, slowly, doubt began to creep through the Vorthan ranks. Were their shields actually working? How could they be sure their cognitive filters were effective? The absence of attack became more terrifying than any weapon. Paranoia spread through the fleet like a virus, each crew member wondering if they had already been transformed without realizing it. By the third day, the Vorthan were monitoring each other for signs of change, analyzing their own thoughts for foreign influence, questioning whether their continued aggression was genuine or an implanted behavior designed to teach them a lesson. The fleet's psychiatrists reported a 400% increase in existential anxiety disorders. On the fourth day, Earth finally transmitted a message. It was a simple text communication. The most effective weapon is the one you never have to fire. Thank you for demonstrating this principle. You're free to leave whenever you've finished learning. The Vorthan fleet departed within the hour, their entire military doctrine in ruins. They had prepared for every possible form of attack, except the possibility that Earth wouldn't need to attack at all. The incident became known as the Zen Defense, and military academies across the galaxy added new courses on psychological warfare and the tactical applications of doing nothing. The Zephyr Confederation, watching these events unfold, came to a disturbing realization. Earth's greatest weapon wasn't their technology or their philosophy. It was their reputation. The planet had become a mirror that reflected each species' deepest fears about their own nature. Aggressive species feared forced pacification. Logical species dreaded the introduction of emotion. Rigid cultures terrified themselves imagining uncontrolled creativity. Commander Vexhai drafted her final report with careful consideration. The Zephyr Confederation had maintained neutrality throughout these incidents, neither allying with nor opposing Earth. But the analysis was clear. Humanity had effectively ended interstellar warfare not through superior firepower, but by making the concept of attack itself psychologically impossible. The report's conclusion read, Earth has achieved defensive supremacy through a paradoxical strategy. By demonstrating the ability to fundamentally alter any attacker's nature, they have created a deterrent more absolute than mutual assured destruction. No species will risk an assault that might result in them becoming something unrecognizably different from their current form. Recommendation: maintain peaceful relations, and under no circumstances attempt any form of military engagement. As the report circulated through the highest levels of galactic government, a new phrase entered the universal lexicon: the human paradox. It described the seemingly impossible situation where a single species had become effectively untouchable, not through isolation or overwhelming force, but through the implicit threat of involuntary enlightenment. Earth continued to welcome visitors, trade partners, and students from across the galaxy. Human children played with Korathan poets in parks designed by Moravan artists. Universities offered courses in adaptive consciousness, and creative defense theory. The planet became a hub of cultural exchange, scientific advancement, and philosophical discourse. But everyone remembered. In quiet moments, in military planning sessions, in the whispered conversations of spaceship crews passing through the Sol system, the same truth echoed. Earth must never be attacked. Not because humans would destroy you, but because they would transform you into something else entirely. Something that might be better, more enlightened, more complete, but definitely not what you were before. The galaxy had learned to live with this beautiful, terrifying truth. And so Earth stood untouched, protected not by shields or fleets, but by the universal fear of unwanted transcendence. The planet's children grew up in a universe where their world was both the most welcoming and the most feared location in known space. And humanity. They continued to evolve, to create, to transform. They reached out to the stars with open hands, offering friendship, knowledge, and growth to all who came in peace. But behind their smiles and their generosity lay the implicit warning that had reshaped galactic civilization. We are not warriors. We are gardeners, and if you bring weapons to our garden, we will help you bloom into something beautiful, whether you're ready or not. The legend of Earth echoed through the cosmos, a reminder that sometimes the most powerful defense is the ability to show your enemies a better version of themselves. And in the vast, dangerous expanse of the galaxy, no one wanted to risk discovering what kind of flower they might become in humanity's infinite garden. Thus ended the age of interstellar warfare, not with the thunder of dreadnoughts or the flash of planet killers, but with the quiet certainty that attacking Earth meant confronting the most terrifying possibility of all, genuine change. And so the galaxy turned, peaceful at last, watched over by a small blue planet whose greatest weapon was the mirror it held up to the universe, reflecting back not what was, but what could be.